Axel didn't always believe he'd become successful. In fact, for a long time, he believed the opposite. At 26, he was working a minimum wage job that barely covered his expenses. He rented a small room in someone else's apartment. No decorations, no comfort. It's just a desk, a mattress on the floor, and a constant feeling that he was falling behind in life. Every morning, he woke up early, not because he was productive, but because stress wouldn't let him sleep. He would often stare at the ceiling, asking himself questions he didn't have answers to. Is this really my life? Did I waste my potential? Will I ever figure things out? Most people around him seemed to be moving forward. They had careers, direction, confidence. He had excuses and uncertainty. When friends asked how he was doing, he said good. When his parents called, he avoided details. Admitting the truth felt too heavy. After work, when the world slowed down, Axel stayed awake. He taught himself new skills, using whatever free resources he could find. He watched videos, took notes, and tried ideas that failed more often than they worked. Some nights he felt hopeful, other nights he felt ridiculous for even trying. There were months where nothing changed, months where effort led nowhere, months where he wondered if persistence was just another form of denial. People noticed his lack of progress. You're still trying that? You should be realistic. Not everyone is meant to be successful. He smiled. He nodded. He went home and continued anyway. Not because he was confident, but because quitting felt like accepting a life he didn't want. Axel failed more times than anyone could count. Plans collapsed. Savings disappeared. There were nights he sat in the dark, calculating how long his money would last. He remembered one night in particular. Sitting on the floor of his room, lights off. He wondered if something was wrong with him. Maybe he wasn't smart enough. Maybe he didn't have what it takes. Maybe success was for other people. The thought hurt more than the struggle itself. But even then, something in him refused to completely give up. It wasn't motivation. It wasn't confidence. It was stubbornness. So he kept showing up, day after day. Failure after failure. While others relaxed, he worked. While others moved on, he stayed. While others saw nothing happening, he was quietly changing. He didn't realize it at the time, but the struggle was teaching him discipline. The silence was building resilience. The uncertainty was forcing him to grow. Then one day, something small worked. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't life-changing. It was just proof. Proof that effort could turn into results. That small win changed everything. It gave him belief not in success, but in progress. He doubled down. He refined his skills. Stayed consistent. He stopped looking for shortcuts and focused on showing up every day. Slowly, momentum built. Opportunities appeared where there were none before. People who once ignored him began paying attention. From the outside, it looked like Axel had suddenly become successful. But he knew better. There was nothing sudden about it. Every late night mattered. Every failure counted. Every moment of doubt strengthened him. Eventually, he reached a point he once thought was impossible. Not perfect, not easy, but stable, confident, capable. And more importantly, he was no longer afraid of struggling, because he had already lived through the hardest part, not knowing if it would ever work. Sometimes people think about the version of Axel who lay awake in that small rented room, wondering if life would ever change. If they could speak to him now, they wouldn't talk about money or success. They'd say this: keep going. Not because success is guaranteed, but because quitting guarantees nothing. Struggle doesn't mean he was failing. Being behind doesn't mean he was finished. And silence doesn't mean nothing was happening. It meant he was being built. You're watching this and your life feels stuck. If your effort feels invisible, no one believes in you right now, you're not alone. You're just in the part of the story most people never survive. Stay patient. Stay consistent. Stay stubborn, because one day this chapter will make sense. And when it does, you'll realize he was never behind. He was preparing. And that's the part people rarely talk about. Success didn't erase the past, didn't make the struggle disappear. It simply gave it meaning. You still remember the fear. You still remember the doubt. But now, those memories don't hurt. They remind us of what's possible. Because if growth could happen in silence, if strength could be built in uncertainty, then maybe the hard seasons aren't meant to break us. Maybe they're meant to prepare us. Not for perfection, but for resilience. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to sit with it. And if you're currently in a season where nothing seems to be working, where progress feels slow and invisible, remember, this is not the end of your story. Here at True Hearts, True Stories, we believe real stories have power to inspire, to heal, and to remind us that we're not alone. If you have a true story of struggle, growth, or success you'd like to share, you can email us at trueheartstruestories1@gmail.com. And if you want to hear more real-life stories like this, follow and subscribe to the channel, because every heart carries a story, and every story deserves to be heard.